Negotiations back on here at 900 Bay between the union representing Ontario College faculty and their employers. This after what must have been a very disappointing day for students after faculty voted down the latest contract offer, meaning the longest strike in their history will continue.
This truly is a huge victory for working people. The College Council, like a lot of bosses, they overplay their hand. They think that they're right all the time, that nobody knows any better than them. And the workers spoke in resounding numbers,
12,000 faculty members have been on strike since October 16th. OPSU President Smokey Thomas calling this forced vote a waste of time today, saying this contract was very similar to the one initially offered on day one. Among the sticking points, pay equity, academic freedom, and the rise of precarious work. Now, 86% voted no on this offer with 95% turnout. And with the strike now into its fifth week, Premier Kathleen Wynne met with both sides this afternoon, but not before taking some heat at Queen's Park. The question is now, will the Liberals force a contract or legislate them back to work?
Premier, were you able to resolve the issues?
Well, that's Kathleen Wynne after the meeting between herself, the union, and the College Council. She imposed a media blackout on what was said during the 30-minute sit-down. However, the union emerged afterwards to say talks had now resumed. Now, as for whether this semester could be saved, the union says they are optimistic. However, they would not give us a cutoff date for when they would lose the semester. Now, coming up, I'll bring you the criticism from the opposition and their calls for the Liberals to end this strike. Well, I'm Amanda Ferguson with breaking news from 900 Bay, where we've been watching talks between the union representing Ontario College faculty and their employer. Well, apparently those talks have failed, and we have just heard from the Liberals that they will be tabling back-to-work legislation within the next 5 minutes. Now, I want to read you a little bit of a statement that the Premier sent out just moments ago. Quote, she said, "Unfortunately, we have heard from the parties that they have reached an impasse in negotiations and they have not agreed to binding arbitration." So this just happened literally moments ago. We are gathering up some reaction. We'll bring you all the latest at 6. I'm Amanda Ferguson live from 900 Bay, where we've been watching talks between the union representing Ontario College faculty and their employers. Well, now we can tell you that those talks have indeed failed, and happening just seconds ago, the Liberals have taken. Around 11 this morning, the union OPSU announced that its workers had overwhelmingly rejected the final contract offer from the employer at a rate of about 85 or 86% no, with a 95% voter turnout. Right after, Premier Kathleen Wynne came out with a statement saying that this afternoon she would be meeting with both sides to try to renew talks. Well, now we have a picture of just how those talks went. I want to read to you part of a statement that was sent out by the Premier. She said, quote, "This afternoon I met with representatives from OPSU and the College Employer Council. I asked them to work together to find a path forward that would see students return to class, get this, by Monday." Now, she goes on to say, "Unfortunately, we have heard from the parties that they have reached an impasse in negotiations and they have not agreed to binding arbitration." So that's where we stand now. We do have a crew at Queen's Park to get reaction. The union had said earlier today, when we asked them, how would you feel back if you were forced to work, and they said they would not support back-to-work legislation. Well, it appears now that their hands are tied. We will bring you all the updates throughout the show as we get them, and of course tonight at City News Tonight at 11. Breaking news now on the status of the college faculty strike. Attempts to table back-to-work legislation have failed. Now, after a quite dramatic session in the Ontario Legislature just a few minutes ago, we're actually learning that the NDP blocked proposals from both the Liberals and the PCs. Take a look.
To end the labour disruptions at colleges across Ontario, I seek unanimous consent to adjourn the current debate and to revert back to introduction of bills.
Ms. Albanese seeking unanimous consent to adjourn the current debate and revert to introduction of bills. Agree? Agree? I hear. Okay. I heard a no.
We want the children back in the classrooms, the youth back in the classrooms. Shame on the NDP for holding it up.
I do not understand why you don't understand to put students first. We've had 5 weeks of it. Enough already. Send it.
So what a day in terms of this labor dispute. As you kind of heard there, this is week 5 for the students to be out of the classroom, and it all began today around 11 this morning with an announcement from the union that they had in fact voted down the latest contract offer by quite a substantial margin. 95% turnout in terms of voters, and they voted no, 86% of them. So after that dramatic no, then Premier Kathleen Wynne stepped forward and said she will be holding a meeting with both sides this afternoon. She got the sides together. They emerged. They were kind of mum on what happened during those talks. But however, they said at least the one result is that both sides were once again meeting again to try to hash things out. Then we found out around 5 o'clock this afternoon that those talks had in fact failed, and that's why the Wynne Liberals said they would want to table back to work legislation with the goal of getting students back in the classroom by Monday. However, now that appears that won't happen, at least on that timeline, because what will happen now, the Liberals will now table another motion, back to work legislation, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and then it's going to take approximately 3 days to push through to the fact that they don't have all party support. So we do have a crew at Queen's Park. We'll bring you all the parties' reaction. We're actually standing by here at 900 Bay where the talks were taking place in hopes of getting reaction from the union. So make sure you tune in throughout the show and of course at 11 o'clock tonight. And speaking of tonight at 11 on City News, Roger Peterson will be unraveling all the day's developments with the Ontario college strike. Now, here's what we know so far. We learned about an hour ago that the Liberals will be tabling back to work legislation. However, when they attempted to do it about an hour ago, that actually failed despite both the Liberals and the PCs agreeing on this legislation. Why? Well, because the NDP blocked it. So what will happen now? And the Liberals will do it again tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and they'll have to take the long way around in terms of tabling this legislation. However, it will pass. Expect students to return to the classroom sometime next week. So how did we get to this point? Well, earlier today, the union OPSU announced that when they put the final contract offer to a vote, its members quite spectacularly rejected it at a vote about 86%. Then Kathleen Wynne said she was going to sit down with both parties and force them to talk it over. However, after a few hours, we learned that those talks failed. That's why we're seeing the back to work legislation. So this will bring to end a 5-week strike. Again, expect students to be back in the classroom sometime early next week. It's affecting some 12,000 faculty, staff, and 500,000 students. It's been a long and bitter one. At 8 o'clock tonight, OPSU will be holding a press conference. Faiza Amin will be there, so make sure you check our Facebook page and Twitter. She will be tweeting that live as well. Well, thank you so much for watching. You can get in touch with us anytime on our City News website, citynews.ca, and our Facebook page. We will see you again at 11. Have a great night.